The stark light of Zal-Kar's twin suns filtered through the crimson dust storms, casting an eerie glow over the shuttle as it descended through the toxic atmosphere. Inside, Ambassador Ilara Wren's fingers tightened imperceptibly on the armrests. Outside her viewport, lightning the color of sapphires crackled through clouds laden with compounds that would dissolve human flesh in seconds. A fitting welcome to the most dangerous known world in the Galactic Council's registry, Deathworld, Class 20. Final approach to Zal-Zur, announced the pilot, voice steady despite the turbulence buffeting the reinforced hull. Ambassador, I must remind you once more, our scans confirm atmospheric toxicity levels beyond safe parameters. The indigenous species invitation notwithstanding, we recommend abort protocols. Ilara smiled faintly, her dark eyes never leaving the viewport. At 42, she had negotiated peace on 17 worlds, but none like this. None that had made the Galactic Council members physically recoil when she'd volunteered. Thank you, Captain, but the invitation stands. Zal-Kar has never permitted outsiders before. After decades of Earth's petitions to join the greater galactic community, we can hardly refuse the first diplomatic overture from a founding council species. The words sounded confident, practiced. They masked the flutter of apprehension in her chest. Zal-Kar's message had been succinct, almost threatening. The weak have no place among us. Those who come must accept the laws of our world. Behind her, the 5-member delegation shifted uneasily. Only Dr. Rao, the neurological analyst with eyes as calm as deep water, seemed unperturbed. He caught her glance and nodded slightly. The silent communication was reassuring. They had prepared for this moment, Earth's first direct contact with the feared Zalcarians. Creatures who had evolved on a planet so hostile that merely surviving made them the apex predators of 1,000 civilizations. You realize they expect us to die, murmured Dr. Rao softly, his voice carrying only to her. The records suggest no off-worlder has survived longer than 12 hours on Zal-Kar without extensive biological modifications. Ilara nodded. Yes, and yet they invited us. That alone is worth the risk. The ship lurched violently, emergency lights flashing as compensators struggled against the atmospheric conditions. Through the clearing storm, Ilara caught her first glimpse of Zal-Zur, a sprawling metropolis of obsidian towers that resembled enormous claws reaching skyward. At its center rose a structure so massive it dwarfed everything around it. The throne spire of Karzuth, supreme ruler of Zal-Kar, and, if reports were accurate, the physically strongest being in the known galaxy. Atmospheric shields activated, the pilot announced. Landing sequence initiated. Ilara rose, straightening her simple blue diplomatic uniform. Unlike most ambassadorial missions, they carried no weapons, not even ceremonial ones. Earth's doctrine of peaceful engagement was about to face its greatest test. Remember, she addressed her team, we represent not just Earth, but a philosophy. Whatever happens, whatever we face, we remain committed to dialogue. We do not raise arms, even in self-defense. She didn't add what they all knew, that the Galactic Council had only reluctantly admitted Earth 20 years ago, considering humans too naive, too idealistic for the harsh realities of interstellar politics. This mission was as much about proving humanity's approach valid as it was about establishing relations with Zal-Kar. The shuttle touched down with a heavy thud. Outside, through reinforced viewports, they could see massive figures approaching, each easily 3 meters tall, with exoskeletons that gleamed like burnished metal under the crimson light. The Zalcarians moved with predatory grace despite their size, their multiple limbs ending in appendages that could only be described as natural weapons. Outer atmosphere composition stabilized, announced the shuttle's AI. External temperature, 62 degrees Celsius. Breathable air bubble established. But caution is advised. The airlock cycled open. A blast of hot, metallic-tasting air rushed in, carrying scents of sulfur and something organic that triggered primitive fear responses in the human brain. Ilara stepped forward, the first human to set foot on Zal-Kar. The gravity, 1.3 times Earth standard, made each step deliberate. Around them, at least 20 Zalcarians formed a circle, their postures unmistakably threatening. Their exoskeletons were adorned with what appeared to be trophies, bones, metal fragments, and items Ilara preferred not to identify too closely. One stepped forward, towering over the human delegation. Its voice emerged as a rumbling growl, translator implants rendering it into a harsh approximation of galactic standard. I am Varnox, seventh claw of the Supreme One. You stand in the domain of Karzuth, conqueror of 1,000 challengers, master of Zal-Kar's 16 territories. By what right do you claim audience? Ilara lifted her chin, meeting the gleaming sensory organs that served as the creature's eyes. I am Ambassador Ilara Wren of Earth, representing the human cooperative and, by extension, the interests of the Galactic Council. We come in peace, without weapons, to establish dialogue. A sound emerged from the gathered Zalcarians, something like laughter, but harsher, predatory. Without weapons? Varnox leaned closer, exoskeleton plates shifting with a sound like knives being sharpened. Then you have already failed the first test of existence on Zal-Kar. Ilara held her ground, though every instinct screamed to retreat. We come as we are, not as you expect us to be. That is our strength. Varnox made a gesture, and the circle of warriors tightened around them. You will be escorted to the throne spire. The Supreme One will determine if your existence has value. As they were surrounded and led toward the towering central structure, Dr. Rao whispered, "Their neural patterns show intense confusion. They don't understand why we're not armed." "Good," Ilara murmured back. "Confusion creates opportunity." The journey through Zal-Zur was a calculated intimidation. They were paraded through districts where combat appeared to be casual recreation, where smaller Zalcarians fought for scraps, where the strong visibly dominated the weak. Yet Ilara noted details others might miss: the complex social hierarchies, the ritualized nature of the violence, the presence of what appeared to be educational centers. This was not mere brutality. This was a civilization with its own logic, its own values. The throne spire loomed larger with each step, its obsidian surface etched with what appeared to be a history of conquests. The entrance was a massive arch that resembled jaws, requiring them to walk literally into the mouth of the beast. Inside, the temperature dropped dramatically, though still uncomfortable for humans. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent light, casting everything in a blue glow that made the Zalcarians' exoskeletons shimmer like oil on water. They were led through chambers where other alien species, representatives from worlds Ilara recognized and some she didn't, waited in various states of tension. All were heavily armed, their postures defensive. All watched the unarmed humans with expressions ranging from pity to contempt. Finally, they reached the throne room, a vast circular chamber with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Dominating the space was a raised dais, upon which sat not a throne as humans would understand it, but a complex structure of metal and bone that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Upon it sat Karzuth, even seated. The supreme ruler of Zal-Kar was enormous, easily 4 meters tall, with an exoskeleton so thick and elaborate it resembled armor more than natural growth. Unlike the others, whose plates were variations of metallic hues. Karzuth's exoskeleton was deep crimson, with edges that gleamed like polished obsidian. 6 limbs emerged from the massive torso, each ending in appendages that could crush stone. But it was the face that held Ilara's attention, a complex arrangement of plates and sensory organs dominated by 4 primary eyes that glowed with bioluminescence. Intelligence burned there, ancient and terrible. "Approach, creatures of Earth," rumbled a voice so deep it seemed to vibrate through the floor. The translator struggled to convey the layers of meaning. "Let us see what manner of species sends its representatives to die." Ilara stepped forward alone, stopping at a distance that would be considered respectful in most diplomatic contexts. "Supreme Ruler Karzuth, we thank you for this unprecedented invitation. Earth is honored to establish relations with Zal-Kar." The massive figure leaned forward, the throne creaking under the shifted weight. "Honor? You understand nothing of honor. On Zal-Kar, honor is earned through strength. Yet you come before me unarmed, unaugmented, fragile as newly hatched larvae." The glowing eyes narrowed. "Explain this insult." "Not an insult, Supreme One, but a demonstration of our highest principles. Humans believe true strength lies not in the ability to take life, but in the wisdom to preserve it." A low rumble filled the chamber, Karzuth's version of laughter. "Pretty words from a species that has never faced the reality of Zal-Kar. Your philosophy is a luxury afforded by your gentle homeworld." The massive ruler rose, towering over them. "Here, existence itself is combat. The weak become resources for the strong. This is the natural order." Ilara remained steady. "With respect, even on Zal-Kar, there must be more than strength that determines value. Your civilization has technology, art, complex social structures, all requiring cooperation, not merely domination." The chamber had gone silent, the gathered Zal-Karians watching with what Ilara interpreted as shock at her boldness. Karzuth descended from the dais, each step deliberate, until he loomed directly over her. Up close, the heat radiating from the massive being was palpable. "You speak of things you do not understand, small creature. Before you can have voice here, you must prove your right to exist." One massive appendage gestured toward a side chamber. "The trial of worth awaits. Succeed, and we may speak further. Fail, and your remains become part of Zal-Kar." Before Ilara could respond, Varnak stepped forward. "Supreme One, these humans come without weapons. The trial would be—" He seemed to search for a concept. "Without meaning." Karzuth's attention shifted to the younger warrior. "You find them interesting. 7th Claw? Perhaps you see potential where I see only weakness." Varnox lowered his sensory appendages in deference. "I see a new approach, Supreme One. Whether it has value remains to be determined." "Indeed." Karzuth returned his gaze to Ilara. "Very well. You will face the trial of worth, but in a manner befitting your uniqueness, not with weapons, but with your minds. The mind arena awaits." A murmur ran through the assembled Zal-Karians. Surprise. Ilara thought, perhaps even shock. Dr. Rao stepped forward. "Ambassador, the neural readings from the gathered assembly suggest the mind arena is rarely used. It appears to be a significant deviation from protocol." Karzuth's attention fixed on the doctor. "You read our neural patterns. Earth creature? Interesting. Few species possess such sensitivity. The massive ruler made a gesture, and doors opened at the far end of the chamber. Come. The mind arena will determine if your species deserves voice in the galaxy, or if you are merely prey with delusions of significance. They were led through corridors that sloped downward, deep into the foundations of the throne spire. The temperature dropped further, and the bioluminescent light took on a violet hue. Ilara noted that their escort had changed, now including older Zalcarians with elaborate markings on their exoskeletons, moving with ceremonial deliberation. The mind arena is ancient, Varnox explained. Walking beside Ilara, his tone had shifted, becoming almost conversational. Created in the before time, when the first Karzuth united the 16 territories, it has not been used for off-worlders in 7 generations. What exactly is it? Ilara asked. A place of truth, where memories become reality, where strength of will determines survival. The young warrior hesitated. It was designed for our kind. I do not know how your physiology will respond. They emerged into a vast circular chamber, its walls lined with crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. In the center stood a platform surrounded by what appeared to be technology far more advanced than anything else Ilara had seen on Zalkar, sleek, almost organic in design, with no visible controls. Gathered around the chamber were dozens of Zalcarians, including what appeared to be elders and specialists. Karzuth took position on a raised observation platform. The mind arena will test not your bodies, which would fail instantly, but your memories, your experiences, your will, the Supreme Ruler announced. It will determine if your species' approach to existence has merit, or if it is merely the philosophy of prey awaiting predators. Ilara stepped forward. We accept this challenge. Supreme One. Not all of you, Karzuth corrected. Only you, Ambassador. The burden of representation falls to the one who speaks. Dr. Rao moved closer to Ilara. The neural patterns suggest this is unprecedented. You don't have to accept. Bah, but I do, she replied quietly. This is why we came. She approached the platform as directed. Up close, the technology seemed to pulse with its own rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Elder Zalcarians positioned themselves at key points around the chamber, beginning a low, harmonic vibration that seemed to resonate with the crystals. The mind arena will connect directly to your neural pathways, explained one of the elders. Voice surprisingly gentle. It will extract memories of conflict, of survival, of choice. These will be projected for all to witness. The quality of these memories will determine your worth. Ilara took a deep breath. I understand. No, you do not, the elder corrected. But you will. She stepped onto the platform. Immediately, energy fields surrounded her, lifting her slightly off the surface. Pain lanced through her skull as neural interfaces established connection without the benefit of implants. She heard Dr. Rao protest, saw the concern on her team's faces, but then everything faded as the mind arena activated fully. The chamber disappeared, replaced by darkness. Then, like fragments of broken glass reassembling, images began to form around her, memories, not just her own, but collective human experiences pulled from the depths of her consciousness. Earth's wars flashed before her, ancient conflicts with swords and spears, modern battles with devastating weapons, the nuclear horror that had finally pushed humanity toward unity. She felt the weight of these memories, the shame and determination they represented. Then came newer memories, the first contact with alien life, the careful, tentative steps toward understanding. The moment Earth had learned of the Galactic Council, and the long, difficult journey toward membership, the skepticism they had faced, the mockery of their peaceful approach. Through it all, she felt the arena extracting the essence of human experience, the capacity for violence. Yes, but also the persistent choice to seek alternatives, the stubborn belief that cooperation could triumph over conflict. The memories shifted again, becoming more personal. Her own diplomatic missions, the tense negotiations on Proxima Centauri, where she had stood unarmed between warring factions, the moment on Rigel 4 when she had chosen to save an alien who had moments before tried to kill her, the quiet victories of words over weapons. Around her, she dimly perceived the reactions of the Zalcarians, confusion, dismissal, then growing interest as the pattern became clear. These were not the memories of prey species, but of predators who had chosen a different path. Then, unexpectedly, the arena shifted focus, drawing forth memories she had not consciously accessed, Earth's history of conservation, of humans protecting endangered species even at great cost to themselves, the restoration of ecosystems, the preservation of creatures that had no practical value beyond their right to exist. The arena pulsed, processing these concepts that seemed alien to Zalcarian understanding. Suddenly, Ilara felt a new presence in the neural connection, powerful, ancient, probing. Karzuth had joined the arena. The Supreme Ruler's consciousness pressed against hers, examining the memories with skepticism that gradually shifted to something else. Not understanding, not yet, but recognition of a paradigm beyond his experience. Images flashed again. This time, Zalcarian memories. The brutal evolution on a world where every element conspired toward death. The necessity of strength. The luxury of mercy none could afford. Generation upon generation of fighting not just enemies, but the planet itself. Then, surprisingly, moments that mirrored human experiences. Zalcarian parents protecting young, warriors sacrificing for their clutchmates, moments of choice where strength was tempered by something else, something unnamed in their culture but recognizable to Ilara as compassion. The arena pulsed brighter, the neural connection deepening as it correlated these parallels. Pain lanced through Ilara's mind as the system pushed human physiology to its limits. But she endured, sensing the importance of this moment. Finally, with a sensation like surfacing from deep water, the connection broke. Ilara collapsed to the platform, gasping for breath. Around her, the chamber had gone utterly silent. The Zalcarians stared, their postures conveying shock. Karzuth stood motionless on his observation platform, sensory organs fully extended, body language unreadable. Then, with deliberate movement, he descended to the arena floor. "Rise, Ambassador of Earth," he commanded, voice quieter than before. Ilara struggled to her feet, still dizzy from the neural interface. Dr. Rao rushed to her side, supporting her with a steadying hand. "Your species confuses me," Karzuth stated. "You possess the instincts of predators, yet choose the behaviors of prey. You have the capacity for dominance, yet deliberately reject it." The massive ruler's head tilted slightly. "Explain this contradiction." Ilara took a moment to gather her thoughts. Supreme One, humans learned through bitter experience that dominance is temporary, but cooperation endures. We discovered that our greatest strength lies not in defeating others, but in creating systems where victory becomes unnecessary. "A philosophy of weakness," interjected an older Zalcarian from the sidelines. "Is it?" Ilara countered. "Consider your own history. You evolved on the most hostile world known to the galaxy. You survived not just through individual strength, but through collective adaptation. Your civilization exists because your ancestors learned that sometimes not fighting was the stronger choice. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Karzuth raised a limb, silencing them. You speak of things you glimpsed in the arena, the Supreme Ruler said, fragments of our past, without context. Perhaps, Ilara acknowledged. But I also speak of universal truths. Even the strongest predator must rest. Even the most fearsome warrior must sometimes cooperate. These are not weaknesses, they are evolutionary necessities. Karzuth was silent for a long moment. Then, with a gesture that sent ripples of surprise through the assembled Zalcarians, he beckoned Ilara to follow. Come, Ambassador, we will continue this discussion privately. She was led to a smaller chamber adjacent to the arena, a space that seemed designed for meditation or contemplation. Here, the bioluminescence was softer, more diffuse. Karzuth dismissed all others, including Varnox, who departed with visible reluctance. When they were alone, the Supreme Ruler's posture changed subtly, less imposing, more contemplative. Your mind is interesting, Earth creature. Karzuth said, in the arena, I sensed not just your memories, but your conviction. You truly believe in this path of cooperation. I do, Ilara confirmed, not because it is easy or perfect, but because we have seen the alternative. We have lived the alternative. Karzuth corrected. For millennia, Zalkar has been the proving ground of strength. Those who survive here can survive anywhere in the galaxy. This is our value to the Council. And what has it cost you? Ilara asked quietly. The question seemed to catch the massive ruler off guard. For a moment, the fearsome presence faltered, revealing something else, something older, wearier. You glimpsed our history in the arena, Karzuth said finally. Then you know that once there were 17 territories, not 16. Once, our numbers were greater. We nearly destroyed ourselves before the first Karzuth established the dominance protocols. Protocols that channeled violence, but never questioned its necessity. Ilara suggested, necessity? The Supreme Ruler's laugh was harsh. On Zalkar, violence is not a choice. It is the baseline of existence. Your soft world may permit philosophical luxury. Ours does not. And yet, Ilara pressed gently, your civilization has advanced beyond mere survival. You have art, technology, social structures of great complexity. None of these come from violence alone. Karzuth was silent again, longer this time. When he spoke, his tone had changed. What does Earth want from Zalkar? Ambassador? Why seek dialogue with those the galaxy fears? Because fear isolates, and isolation weakens. Because diversity of species, of approaches, of philosophies, strengthens the whole. Because after centuries of violence, humans learned that our greatest enemies could become our most valuable allies. Pretty concepts, Karzuth rumbled. But concepts do not survive on Zalkar. Then let us prove their value. Ilara proposed, allow Earth to establish a permanent diplomatic presence here. Let us demonstrate that there are alternatives to strength through dominance. You would risk your people in such an endeavor. We would volunteer for the opportunity. Ilara corrected, as I have. Karzuth studied her with those glowing eyes, sensory appendages twitching slightly. You interest me, Ambassador. But interest is not agreement. Before any such arrangement could be considered, you must complete the trial of worth. I thought the mind arena was the trial. It was the beginning. The true test remains. The massive ruler rose. Return to your delegation. Tomorrow. You will face the final challenge. If you succeed, we may speak further of this. Diplomatic presence. When Elara rejoined her team, she found them surrounded by curious Zalcarians, including Varnox, who appeared to have appointed himself their protector. The young warrior's posture was alert, positioning himself between the humans and the more aggressive members of his species. The mind arena has caused much discussion, Varnox informed her. Some elders believe it was contaminated by your alien thoughts. Others found the memories provocative. Provocative how? Dr. Rao inquired. Dear, they showed strength without dominance. This concept is... The young warrior struggled for the word. Disruptive. Ambassador, Dr. Rao said quietly, drawing her aside. The neural patterns among the Zalcarians have shifted dramatically. There appears to be a generational divide forming, younger members showing increased neural activity in regions associated with curiosity and adaptation, elders demonstrating defensive patterns. We've created controversy, Elara concluded. More than controversy, the doctor corrected. Possibly the beginnings of cultural fracture. The implications could be dangerous. As if confirming his assessment, a commotion erupted across the chamber. An elder Zalcarian, elaborate scarification marking him as a high-ranking warrior, confronted Varnox. You bring weakness into the heart of Zal-Zur, the elder accused, vocal organs vibrating with aggression. These creatures should have been resources, not guests. Varnox straightened to his full height, matching the elder's posture. The Supreme One has granted them status of challenge seekers. Would you question Karzuth's judgment? Blood Elder? I question the corruption of our ways. The elder snarled. First the mind arena, unused for generations. Now soft bodies walking freely among us. The old Karzuth would never have permitted such aberration. The confrontation was drawing attention. Other Zalcarians gathering, taking sides with subtle shifts in posture. Elara recognized the danger. Their presence was catalyzing existing tensions within Zalcarian society. She stepped forward, placing herself between Varnox and the elder, a gesture so unexpected that both Zalcarians froze momentarily. On Earth, she said clearly, addressing not just the immediate confrontation, but the gathered crowd. We have a saying, new ideas should not threaten old wisdom, but complement it. Your ways have kept you strong for millennia. We do not seek to change them, only to add perspectives that might enhance them. The elder's sensory appendages flattened against his exoskeleton, a sign of aggression. Elara had learned. You know nothing of our ways, soft body. I know that Zalkar has survived when lesser worlds would have perished. She acknowledged. I know that your strength is legendary throughout the galaxy, but I also know that strength alone is not enough for a species to truly thrive. We have thrived for thousands of cycles. You have survived, Elara corrected gently. But has Zalkar reached its full potential? Has isolation served your ultimate interests? The elder made a harsh sound, but before he could respond, another voice cut through the tension. An interesting question, Karzuth had returned, moving with surprising silence for one so large. The gathered Zalcarians immediately prostrated themselves, pressing sensory appendages to the floor in a gesture of absolute submission. Only Varnox remained partially upright, though deferentially lowered. Supreme One, the elder began, these outsiders bring corrupting influences. These outsiders bring questions we have not asked in generations. Karzuth interrupted. Questions worthy of consideration. The massive ruler surveyed the gathered crowd. The ambassador of Earth will face the final trial tomorrow. Until then, they are under my protection. Any who challenge this will answer to me personally." The pronouncement sent ripples of reaction through the assembled Zalcarians. The elder subsided, though his posture remained hostile. Varnox, however, seemed to gain stature, his position as their escort now officially sanctioned by the Supreme Ruler. As the crowd dispersed, Karzuth approached Ilara directly. "You intervened in a dominance challenge," he observed. "On Zalkar, this is a claim of superior status. It was not intended as such." Ilara explained. "I sought to prevent conflict, not assert dominance. Intent matters less than perception." Karzuth rumbled. "You have now publicly positioned yourself as equal to our warriors. The final trial has taken on additional significance." The massive ruler leaned closer. "You should understand what awaits. Tomorrow, you will face the trial of consequence. You will be required to take a life to prove your understanding of Zalcarian values." Ilara felt a chill despite the chamber's heat. "Supreme One, I cannot take a life. It violates everything I represent." "Then you will fail," Karzuth stated simply, "and all this discussion of diplomatic presence will end." The glowing eyes studied her. "Consider carefully. Ambassador, on Zalkar, principles that cannot adapt do not survive." With that, the Supreme Ruler departed, leaving Ilara with the weight of an impossible choice. That night, in the quarters assigned to the Earth delegation, spaces hastily adapted for human physiology, with environmental controls that made the air barely breathable, Ilara faced the reality of their situation. "We should withdraw," argued one of her team, a young diplomatic attaché whose optimism had visibly eroded throughout the day. "The trial of consequence is clearly designed to force us to abandon our principles or fail. Either way, they win. If we withdraw, we confirm every prejudice about humanity's weakness," countered another. "The Galactic Council would see it as proof that our approach is valid only in controlled environments." Dr. Rao remained silent, monitoring neural patterns through discrete sensors placed throughout Zalzur. Finally, he spoke. "The city is in turmoil. Our presence has catalyzed existing tensions between traditionalists and what I would term progressives, though that concept barely translates to Zalcarian society." "Varnox represents this progressive faction?" Ilara asked. "He appears to be emerging as its focal point." "Yes." His neural patterns showed genuine curiosity about alternatives to pure strength. Others are aligning with him, primarily younger warriors, specialists, and, interestingly, those responsible for nurturing the young. Ilara paced the small chamber, considering options. The trial is a trap, designed to force a choice between our principles and our mission. Unless, Dr. Rao suggested carefully, we redefine the parameters. "Explain." The mind arena created a neural bridge, not just displaying memories, but creating connection. "Karzuth experienced your thoughts, but you also experienced his. There was something there. Ambassador, something beyond the warrior facade." Ilara nodded slowly. "Weariness. The burden of maintaining a system he himself might question, if questioning were permitted." "Precisely. The trial of consequence may be less about testing us than about reinforcing Zalcarian orthodoxy, proving that even aliens must ultimately submit to their worldview. Then we must refuse to play by their rules." Ilara concluded, "Not by withdrawing, but by changing the game entirely." A soft chime indicated someone at their quarters entrance. The door slid open to reveal Varnox, his massive frame barely fitting through the opening. The young warrior entered cautiously, sensory appendages twitching as he adjusted to the modified environment. "Ambassador," he greeted Ilara, I come without official sanction. What I share now could cost my position, perhaps my life. We appreciate the risk, Ilara assured him. What brings you here? The trial of consequence has been modified. Varnox revealed. Traditionally, it involves eliminating a captured enemy combatant, a straightforward test of resolving conflict through strength. For you, however, the Blood Elders have selected a different subject. The young warrior's voice lowered. They will bring forth a juvenile, a malformed hatchling from the lower castes. Ilara felt sick. They expect me to kill a child? They expect you to fail, Varnox corrected. The choice is designed to be impossible for your kind. Either you compromise your core principles by taking an innocent life, or you fail the trial and prove that your philosophy is unsuited to Zalkar's reality. Why tell us this? Dr. Rao asked. You risk much. Varnox's sensory appendages flattened against his exoskeleton, a gesture Ilara now recognized as indicating internal conflict. Because the mind arena showed truth, because your memories revealed a path my people have forgotten, because... He seemed to struggle with an unfamiliar concept. Change may be necessary for true strength. You're not alone in thinking this, Ilara suggested. No. Many of my clutch generation question the old ways. We have observed other species in the galaxy. We have seen worlds where cooperation brings greater advancement than constant conflict. But to speak such thoughts openly is to invite challenge. And now, Ilara pressed, now there is opportunity. If you can survive the trial of consequence without compromising your principles or failing outright, it would demonstrate an alternative path, a third option beyond dominate or submit. Do you have suggestions for how we might accomplish this miracle? Dr. Rao asked dryly. Varnox hesitated. The mind arena, it remains active, recalibrating after yesterday's session. It could be repurposed. Explain, Ilara urged. The arena was created not just to examine memories, but to share them, to allow the first Karzuth to understand the experiences of the 16 territories and forge unity. Its full capabilities have been forgotten, or deliberately suppressed. The young warrior's posture straightened with decision. I can help you access these capabilities. If you are willing to take the risk. Ilara exchanged glances with her team. The plan forming in her mind was dangerous, potentially catastrophic if it failed, but the alternative was certain failure. What would we need to do? She asked. The trial of consequence was conducted with full ceremonial gravity. The great hall of the throne spire had been reconfigured, its center now dominated by a raised platform surrounded by tiered seating. The Zalkarians gathered in full regalia, exoskeletons polished to gleaming brilliance, adorned with tokens of victories and rank. Karzuth presided from an elevated position, his massive form silhouetted against the crimson light streaming through crystalline apertures in the ceiling. The atmosphere was tense, expectant. This was not merely a diplomatic formality, but a spectacle with profound implications for Zalkarian society. Ilara stood alone at the center of the platform, her blue diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the metallic and bone tones surrounding her. Her team watched from a designated area, their expressions carefully neutral despite the tension Ilara knew they must feel. Ambassador Ilara Wren of Earth. Karzuth's voice rolled through the chamber like distant thunder. You stand before us to complete the trial of consequence. This trial tests not just understanding, but commitment to values. On Zalkar, we believe true comprehension comes only through action. The Supreme Ruler gestured, and a side door opened. Guards entered, escorting a smaller Zalkarian, clearly juvenile. with an exoskeleton still soft in places, not yet fully formed. Even to Ilara's untrained eye, she could see the asymmetry in its limbs, the malformation that had marked it as defective by Zalcarian standards. A murmur ran through the assembled crowd. Surprise, disapproval, anticipation. This was not the traditional subject for the trial. The Blood Elder who had confronted Varnox rose to address the gathering. "The weak drain resources from the strong," he proclaimed. "This malformed hatchling cannot contribute to Zalkar's strength. Its elimination is mercy, efficiency, and natural law combined." He turned to Ilara. "Ambassador of Earth, demonstrate your understanding of our ways. Prove that your species comprehends the necessity of strength by eliminating that which weakens the whole." The juvenile was brought forward, positioned before Ilara. Up close, she could see the intelligence in its sensory organs, the fear it could not hide. Despite its deformities, it carried itself with dignity. "I cannot do this," Ilara stated clearly, her voice carrying through the chamber. "This being has harmed no one. Its life has value beyond your narrow definition of strength." The Blood Elder's sensory appendages flattened in satisfaction. "Then you fail the trial of consequence. Your philosophy is proven inadequate for Zalkar's reality." "I have not finished," Ilara continued, unperturbed. "I propose an alternative trial, one that tests true strength, not merely the ability to dominate the vulnerable." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Karzuth leaned forward, sensory organs extending with interest. "Speak, Ambassador." "I propose to return to the Mind Arena." Ilara announced, "Not alone, but with you, Supreme Ruler. Together, we will face not physical challenges, but the truths of our respective worlds. If my philosophy fails there, I will concede that Earth's approach has no place on Zalkar." The hall erupted in sound, objections, questions, exclamations of shock. Karzuth raised a massive limb, silencing them instantly. "You propose that I, Supreme Ruler of Zalkar, submit to the Mind Arena alongside you?" His tone conveyed disbelief, but Ilara detected something else. Curiosity, perhaps even anticipation. "I do," she confirmed. "True strength lies in facing truth, not avoiding it. Are you strong enough for this challenge, Supreme One?" The provocation was calculated, appealing to Zalcarian values while reframing them. Karzuth's sensory appendages twitched, processing the implications. Around the hall, postures shifted as the assembled warriors and elders reacted to this unprecedented development. The Blood Elder stepped forward again. "This is manipulation. The human seeks to avoid the true trial." "Is it manipulation to propose a more difficult challenge?" Ilara countered. "The Mind Arena will strip away pretense from both of us. There can be no deception there, no evasion, only truth." Karzuth studied her for a long moment, then rose to his full, intimidating height. "I accept this challenge, Ambassador of Earth. Let it be recorded that Karzuth fears no truth, no memory, no reality." The declaration sent shockwaves through the assembly. The Blood Elder tried once more to object, but fell silent under Karzuth's glare. With ceremonial deliberation, the Supreme Ruler descended from his elevated position to stand beside Ilara on the platform. "The Mind Arena awaits," he rumbled. "Let us see whose philosophy truly serves strength." They proceeded to the arena chamber, followed by what seemed to be the entire Zalzur elite. The space had been reconfigured since Ilara's previous experience. The central platform now expanded to accommodate 2 participants, the crystalline structures pulsing with increased energy. Dr. Rao approached Ilara before she ascended the platform. "The modifications are in place," he murmured. Varnox's assistance was invaluable. The arena will not just display memories now, but create a shared experiential space. "And the risk?" Ilara asked quietly. "Considerable," the doctor admitted. "Neural overload is possible for both participants, and the political ramifications are necessary." Ilara finished. "Thank you, Doctor. Whatever happens, Earth's principles have been well represented." She joined Karzuth on the platform, up close. The Supreme Ruler's massive form was even more imposing, the biomechanical complexity of the exoskeleton evident in its intricate articulation. The four primary eyes studied her with an intensity that suggested he was already reconsidering his decision. "There is still time to choose the traditional trial," he offered, voice pitched for her ears alone. "Is that fear I detect, Supreme One?" Ilara asked with gentle provocation. Karzuth's sensory appendages flattened briefly before extending to their full length. "Activate the arena," he commanded. The elder technicians began the initiation sequence, their harmonics vibrating through the chamber. Energy fields surrounded the platform, lifting both participants slightly as neural interfaces established connection. Pain lanced through Ilara's consciousness as before, but she was prepared this time, accepting it as necessary. The chamber faded from perception, replaced by darkness that slowly gave way to form and substance. But unlike before, when memories had been displayed as external observations, now they were experienced, immersive, visceral, real. They stood on Earth, a reconstruction drawn from Ilara's memories, but solid enough to feel the breeze, hear birds, smell vegetation. Karzuth's massive form seemed out of place against the gentle landscape. "This is your world," the Supreme Ruler observed, sensory appendages extending to process the unfamiliar environment. "Soft, protected. No wonder your philosophy developed as it did." "This is part of Earth," Ilara corrected, "but not all of it." The scene shifted, cycling rapidly through Earth's environments, scorching deserts, frozen wastelands, storm-lashed coastlines, earthquake-ravaged cities, then human history, wars, famine, plagues, disasters both natural and self-inflicted. "Your world has teeth," Karzuth acknowledged, "yet still nothing compared to Zalkar." "True," Ilara agreed. "But our challenges came not just from our environment, but from ourselves. Humans nearly destroyed their own civilization multiple times before learning that strength through dominance was ultimately self-defeating." The scenes shifted again, showing the aftermath of Earth's last great conflict, the devastation, the suffering, but also the rebuilding. The slow, painful evolution toward a unified human society where cooperation replaced competition as the driving force. "An admirable adaptation," Karzuth conceded, "but one permitted by your world's forgiveness. Zalkar allows no such luxury." "Then let us see Zalkar," Ilara suggested. The environment transformed instantly, Earth's familiar landscapes replaced by the harsh reality of Zalkar. Heat blasted them, acrid chemicals burning in their lungs. The landscape was a nightmare of jagged obsidian formations, pools of corrosive liquid, and predatory flora that moved with purposeful hunger. Through Karzuth's memories, they experienced the brutal reality of evolution on this world, generations of Zalkarians fighting not just each other, but their very environment, developing exoskeletons and biochemistry that could withstand conditions that would kill most species instantly. "Oh, this is the crucible that forged us." Karzuth's voice resonated with pride and something else, a deep weariness. "Every moment is combat, every decision is survival. Mercy is death. And yet, Ilara pressed gently, your ancestors chose cooperation within their groups. They formed societies, developed technology, created art. Even here, on the most hostile world known to the galaxy, pure dominance was not enough. The arena shifted again, drawing forth older memories, not just Karzuth's, but collective racial memories stored in the system. The early Zalcarians, smaller and more vulnerable, forming clutch groups for protection, the development of communication, of shared resources, of specialized roles beyond warrior. A necessity, Karzuth insisted. Temporary alliance for greater strength. Is it temporary if it has lasted thousands of generations? Ilara asked. Is it merely alliance if it has created civilization? Before Karzuth could respond, the arena shifted focus again, this time to more recent memories, the Supreme Ruler's own experiences. Here was Karzuth as a juvenile, fighting for position, demonstrating extraordinary strength even by Zalcarian standards. His rise through the ranks, the countless challenges defeated, the ultimate ascension to Supreme Ruler. But interwoven with these expected memories were others, moments of doubt, of questioning. Karzuth standing alone at the peak of Zalzur's highest spire, looking out over a civilization that revered strength above all else, wondering if there could be more. The weariness of constant vigilance against challengers, the isolation of supreme power. These are private! Karzuth's protest reverberated through the arena. This goes beyond the agreed parameters. The arena shows truth. Ilara reminded him gently. All truth, not just the parts we choose to acknowledge. The scene shifted once more, moving beyond individual memories to a deeper level. The fears, hopes, and unacknowledged needs of both participants. Here was Ilara's fear that Earth's peaceful approach would prove inadequate in a hostile galaxy, that humans were indeed too naive for interstellar reality. And here was Karzuth's secret fear, that the system he upheld was leading Zalcar not to greater strength, but to stagnation. That constant conflict consumed resources that could be directed toward advancement, toward exploration, toward a future beyond mere survival. Enough, Karzuth commanded, but the arena continued, drawing them deeper. Now they witnessed not memories, but possibilities. Earth, if it abandoned its principles of peace, returning to dominance hierarchies, tearing itself apart from within. Zalcar, if it continued its current path, its population gradually declining, its isolation becoming complete as the rest of the galaxy moved forward without them. Then, alternative futures. Earth bringing its philosophy of cooperation to the wider galaxy, including Zalcar. The Supreme Ruler's world not softened, not weakened, but evolved, maintaining its legendary strength while channeling it toward advancement rather than mere dominance. Zalcarians taking their place in the Galactic Council not as feared warriors, but as respected partners bringing unique perspectives and capabilities. Speculation. Karzuth dismissed, but his tone lacked conviction. Possibility, Ilara corrected. The true strength of any species lies not in what it is, but in what it can become. The arena pulsed one final time, then began to fade. The neural connection weakened, reality reasserting itself. With a disorienting lurch, Ilara found herself back on the platform in the physical chamber. Karzuth beside her. The assembled Zalcarians stared in shock. The session had lasted far longer than the previous one, and the external displays had shown not just isolated memories, but the full experiential exchange. They had witnessed not only Ilara's mind, but their supreme rulers, including the doubts he had never expressed. The silence was absolute. Even the Blood Elder seemed stunned beyond words. Varnox stood at the forefront of the younger Zalcarians, his posture conveying not surprise, but vindication. Karzuth remained motionless for long moments, sensory appendages fully extended, processing what had transpired. Finally, with deliberate movement that sent ripples of anticipation through the assembly, he turned to face Ilara fully. "Ambassador of Earth." The massive ruler's voice was quieter than before, almost contemplative. "You have shown not weakness, but a different kind of strength, one that my people have forgotten, or perhaps never fully understood." The declaration hung in the air, its implications spreading through the chamber like ripples in still water. The Blood Elder stepped forward, vocal organs vibrating with distress. "Supreme One, this cannot stand. The human has manipulated the arena, corrupted the trial. Our ways have served us well," Karzuth interrupted. "But they are not immutable. Adaptation is the true law of Zalkar. We adapted to survive our world. Now, perhaps, we must adapt to thrive beyond it." The Supreme Ruler descended from the platform, moving with purpose toward the juvenile Zalcarian who still waited, guarded, at the chamber's edge. The assembled crowd parted before him, sensory appendages lowered in deference despite the unprecedented nature of events. Karzuth stopped before the malformed juvenile, studying it with all four primary eyes. This hatchling was to be eliminated for weakness, he stated. Yet in its asymmetry, I see possibility for new thinking. In its difference, potential for adaptation. The massive ruler raised a claw, not to strike, but in a gesture that the Zalcarians clearly recognized as significant. "I claim this one for direct patronage. Its value will be determined not by physical prowess, but by contribution to Zalkar's evolution." Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. The Blood Elder's posture conveyed shock bordering on outrage, but he dared not challenge Karzuth directly. The younger Zalcarians, led by Varnox, displayed postures that Ilara interpreted as approval, even excitement. Karzuth returned to the platform where Ilara still stood. "The trial of consequence is complete," he announced. "The Ambassador of Earth has demonstrated a philosophy that, while alien to our traditions, may hold value for Zalkar's future. I declare the trial met through innovation rather than compliance, a stronger response than mere obedience." He turned to Ilara. "Your proposal for a permanent diplomatic presence will be accepted, under conditions to be negotiated. Zalkar will not abandon its strength, but we may reconsider how that strength is best applied." The pronouncement reverberated through the chamber. Ilara felt a surge of triumph tempered by awareness of the delicate moment. This was not victory over Zalkar, but the beginning of understanding between fundamentally different approaches to existence. "Zalkar's strength is legendary throughout the galaxy," she acknowledged. "Earth does not seek to change that, but to help channel it toward greater possibilities. Together, perhaps we can demonstrate that true power comes not from domination, but from the wisdom to know when not to dominate." Karzuth's sensory appendages twitched in what might have been amusement. Pretty words. "Ambassador. Now we will see if they translate to reality on the most hostile world in known space." 3 days later, as the Earth delegation prepared to depart, leaving behind the framework for a permanent mission that would begin construction within months, Karzuth summoned Ilara for a final audience. They met not in the formal throne room, but in a smaller chamber high in the spire, overlooking the vast expanse of Zal-Zur. Through reinforced barriers, the crimson landscape of Zalkar stretched to the horizon, beautiful in its deadly majesty. "Your visit has created disruption," Karzuth stated without preamble. The Blood Elders speak of corruption, of abandoning our ways. The younger generation speaks of evolution, of new possibilities. This division was beginning before your arrival, but you have accelerated it. Change is rarely comfortable. Ilara acknowledged, but often necessary. Necessary. Karzuth repeated thoughtfully. Perhaps. Time will determine if this change strengthens or weakens Zal-Kar. The massive ruler's sensory appendages extended fully, processing the vista before them. I have ruled through strength for 37 cycles. I have defeated all challengers, maintained the dominance protocols, upheld our traditions. And yet, he turned to face her, his massive form silhouetted against the crimson landscape. And yet, in the arena, I saw something I had not permitted myself to acknowledge: the cost of our way, the limitation of endless conflict. What will you do? Ilara asked. I will rule as I always have, through strength. But perhaps strength can find new expressions. Karzuth made a gesture, and an attendant entered, bearing an object wrapped in ceremonial fabric. Before you depart, I offer this token of Zal-Kar's recognition. The attendant presented the object to Ilara. Unwrapping it carefully, she found a claw, massive, gleaming, obviously from Karzuth himself. Unlike the trophies she had seen adorning Zal-Karian warriors, this one was unmarked by blood or battle. The first unstained claw, Karzuth explained, removed not in combat, but by choice, a symbol of strength directed by will rather than mere instinct. The Supreme Ruler's sensory appendages twitched with what might have been discomfort, a concept your people understand well. It seems. Ilara accepted the gift, recognizing its profound significance. Earth will treasure this symbol of our new understanding. Not understanding, Karzuth corrected. Not yet, but perhaps the beginning of a path toward it. The massive ruler's tone shifted, becoming once more the voice of supreme authority. Tell your Galactic Council that Zal-Kar remains as it always has been, the strongest world, the pinnacle of evolutionary success. But also tell them that strength may express itself in ways they have not anticipated. I will, Ilara promised. As her shuttle lifted off from Zal-Zur, climbing through the toxic atmosphere toward the waiting Earth vessel. Ilara gazed down at the deadly, beautiful world receding beneath them. Beside her, Dr. Rao monitored final neural readings from the surface. Fascinating, he commented. The patterns suggest genuine cultural shift beginning, particularly among the younger generation. Varnox has been elevated to first claw, unprecedented for one so young. A calculated move by Karzuth, Ilara suggested. Acknowledging the progressive faction while maintaining traditional authority. Indeed. The doctor's expression was thoughtful. Do you believe it will last, this opening toward a different path? Ilara considered, her fingers tracing the contours of the unstained claw. I believe that once truth is glimpsed, it cannot be entirely forgotten. Zal-Kar will never be Earth, nor should it be. But perhaps it can be more than what it has been. As the shuttle broke free of the atmosphere, the crimson world fell away, becoming merely one point of light among countless others. Yet Ilara knew that what had begun there would ripple outward, affecting not just Zal-Kar and Earth, but potentially the entire Galactic Council. Humans didn't win through strength, she murmured, but through memory, and the belief that no one is born to destroy forever. The unstained claw caught the light of distant stars, gleaming not with blood, but with possibility.